My beloved child, before another thought pulls your attention away, before the noise of this day asks for one more piece of your heart, stay here with me for just a little while. There is a reason your eyes have settled on these words at this very moment. You may believe you were simply scrolling, simply searching, simply passing through another ordinary day, but I want you to know that what feels ordinary to you has never been ordinary to me. Long before this hour arrived, I knew the exact moment when your heart would become quiet enough to notice my gentle voice again. I have never measured your life by accidents or coincidences. I have always worked through moments, through timing, through quiet invitations that often seem so small you almost overlook them. Yet some of the greatest changes begin with a single moment when a weary heart chooses to pause instead of rushing ahead. That is why I have drawn you here. Not to overwhelm you, not to frighten you, not to burden you with impossible expectations. I have brought you here because I know something about your heart that perhaps even you have forgotten. Beneath the responsibilities you carry, beneath the questions you have hidden from everyone around you, beneath the smile you wear when people ask if you are doing well, there is still a place within you that longs to believe that I am near. That quiet place has not disappeared. It has simply been waiting through busy days, waiting through disappointments, waiting through unanswered questions, waiting through nights when your thoughts refuse to let you rest. I have been there through every one of those moments. I saw the conversations you never had because you were afraid no one would understand. I heard the prayers you whispered so softly that even you wondered whether they had reached heaven. I noticed the times when you tried to convince yourself that you were strong enough to carry everything alone, even while your soul quietly grew tired beneath the weight. None of that escaped my attention. I have always known your story more deeply than anyone else ever could. And because I know your story, I also know this moment. This is not simply another message crossing your path. This is an invitation wrapped in ordinary circumstances, but filled with extraordinary grace. Sometimes you ask why certain things happen when they do. Sometimes you wonder why one conversation stays with you while countless others disappear. Sometimes you feel a quiet stirring inside your spirit that you cannot explain. That stirring is not something you created. It is my loving presence drawing near, gently knocking, never forcing, never demanding, only waiting for your heart to recognize my voice. You have spent so much time looking for signs that you almost forgot how often I speak through peace instead of pressure. I do not rush your healing. I do not compete with the noise around you. I patiently remain near until your heart is ready to receive what my love has been offering all along. Even now, as you listen, you may be wondering why these words feel strangely personal. Perhaps you cannot explain why your heart has slowed down for a moment. Perhaps you cannot understand why something inside you does not want to leave just yet. That is because my love has always known how to find you. Before you searched for me, I was already searching for you. Before you asked whether I still cared, I had already surrounded your life with countless quiet reminders that you were never forgotten. Before this day was written into your calendar, I had already prepared this appointment with you. Not because I needed your perfection, but because I treasure your presence. Not because you have finally earned my attention, but because you have always had it. There has never been a single season when my eyes turned away from you. There has never been a single morning when my mercy failed to rise before you did. Even when your faith felt small, my faithfulness remained unchanged. Even when your hope flickered like a tiny candle in a strong wind, I carefully protected that fragile flame because I knew one day it would begin to burn brightly again. Today is not about proving yourself worthy of my love. Today is about allowing yourself to believe that my love has never stopped reaching toward you. There is a reason you are here, and that reason is far more beautiful than chance could ever create. Your story is still unfolding, your heart is still being gently awakened, and I am still walking beside you, step by step, with unwavering patience, endless compassion, and a hope that has never once let go of your name. My beloved child, now that you have remained here with me, let your heart rest for a moment without feeling the need to explain itself. You have spent so much time trying to convince yourself that you should be stronger by now, that you should have recovered by now, that you should not still be carrying the same heaviness after all this time. Yet I know the truth hidden beneath those thoughts. Your greatest exhaustion has never come from how much you have done. It has come from how much you have carried in silence. There are burdens you have never placed into words because you feared they would sound too small, too complicated, or too difficult for anyone to understand. So you learned to carry them quietly. You continued showing up. You continued smiling. You continued encouraging others, while your own heart slowly became weary. I saw every moment. I saw the mornings when your body rose from bed but your spirit felt as though it had never truly rested. I saw the evenings when the house finally became quiet, yet your thoughts grew louder instead of softer. I saw you replay conversations that had already ended, wondering whether you had said enough, done enough, or somehow failed someone you loved. Those questions settled upon your heart one by one until they became a weight you no longer noticed because you had carried them for so long. I know that some of your deepest pain has never come from dramatic moments. It has come from the slow accumulation of disappointments that quietly taught your heart to expect less, to hope less, and to protect itself from being hurt again. There were prayers you offered with great expectation, and when the answers did not arrive as quickly as you imagined, you began questioning yourself instead of questioning the circumstances. You wondered whether your faith was too weak, whether your voice was too small, whether heaven had somehow become distant. Yet even as those questions filled your mind, I remained close enough to hear every unspoken sigh. I know the loneliness that visits even when you are surrounded by people. I know what it feels like when your calendar is full but your soul still feels empty. I know how often you have listened patiently to the burdens of others, while quietly wishing someone would ask how your own heart was truly doing. There have been days when you longed for someone to notice that your smile required more strength than anyone realized. There have been moments when you wished someone could see beyond your words and recognize the hidden fatigue that had settled deep inside you. My beloved, I have always seen it. I have seen the emotional fatigue that comes from trying to hold everything together for everyone else. I have seen the silent struggle of forgiving while still carrying the memory of being wounded. I have seen the effort it takes to keep believing when life has not unfolded the way you once imagined. I have seen how difficult it has become to trust your own heart after disappointment taught you to be cautious. None of these things have made me love you less. They have only drawn me closer. I do not look upon your weariness with disappointment. I look upon it with compassion. I know that some days you have mistaken survival for living because simply making it through the day felt like enough. You kept moving forward, but inside you wondered how much longer your heart could keep carrying such invisible weight. You have become so accustomed to emotional fatigue that peace almost feels unfamiliar. You have become so familiar with pressure that rest sometimes feels undeserved. You have become so used to protecting your heart that opening it again feels frightening. I understand why. I know where those walls came from. They were not built because you stopped caring. They were built because you cared deeply. They were built because hope had been disappointed more than once. They were built because love sometimes seemed to leave, promises sometimes appeared delayed, and life did not always make sense. Yet even while those walls were quietly rising, I never stopped seeing the gentle heart that remained behind them. I have never confused your caution with rejection. I have never mistaken your silence for indifference. I have always known that beneath every hidden burden, beneath every restless night, beneath every quiet tear and every unspoken prayer, there is still a child who longs to believe that my presence is enough. That longing has never disappeared. It has only become tired. And I have not turned away from that tired heart for even a single moment. While others may have seen only your strength, I have seen your tenderness. While others admired your resilience, I noticed your hidden pain. While others believed you were doing well because you rarely complained, I heard the quiet cry your soul could not express aloud. My beloved child, you have never had to earn my understanding because I have walked beside you through every silent struggle, every unseen battle, every weary step, and every hidden burden that no one else ever knew you were carrying. My beloved child, there is something I want you to see today, not because I wish to expose your weakness, but because I long to free your heart from burdens it was never created to carry. Many of the heaviest chains are not made of circumstances. They are made of beliefs that quietly settled into your heart while you were trying to survive. They arrived so gently that you hardly noticed them. They did not begin as convictions. They began as questions. Then the questions slowly became assumptions, and the assumptions eventually became the voice you started believing every time disappointment returned. Somewhere along your journey, after enough unanswered prayers, enough unexpected endings, enough moments that did not unfold the way you hoped, another voice began whispering beside your own thoughts. It told you that perhaps you had been forgotten. It suggested that maybe everyone else mattered more than you. It encouraged you to compare your story with the lives of others until your own journey felt small and insignificant. Little by little, you stopped looking at yourself through my eyes and began measuring your worth by your circumstances. You believed that if life felt difficult, then perhaps you had disappointed me. If doors remained closed, then perhaps you were not worthy enough. If healing seemed delayed, then perhaps your faith was too weak. My beloved, those thoughts were never the truth, yet I know why they became familiar to you. Fear rarely arrives shouting. It usually enters quietly, repeating the same message until it sounds like your own voice. It tells you that you are not enough. It tells you that your mistakes define your future. It tells you that your failures speak louder than my mercy. It tells you that everyone else is stronger, wiser, and more deserving of love than you could ever be. It even convinces you that if people truly knew your hidden struggles, they would walk away. So you hide. You smile. You pretend that everything is fine while secretly wondering whether anyone would still love the real you. I have watched this happen with great tenderness because I know that these false beliefs were not born from pride. They were born from pain. Pain has a way of distorting what once seemed clear. A wounded heart often mistakes silence for abandonment. A weary soul can mistake delay for rejection. An exhausted mind can mistake temporary struggles for permanent identity. Before long, you no longer say, "I feel afraid." Instead, you begin saying, "I am weak." You no longer think, "I made a mistake." Instead, you believe, "I am a mistake." You no longer wonder, "Why is this season difficult?" Instead, you quietly conclude, "This is all my life will ever be." My precious child, those are not the words I have spoken over you. Those are not the thoughts I have planted within your heart. I have never called you forgotten. I have never called you unwanted. I have never looked upon your life and declared that you are beyond hope. Even in your most uncertain moments, my love has never hesitated. Even when you questioned yourself, I never questioned my love for you. Even when you struggled to recognize your own value, I still saw the beautiful person I formed with purpose and compassion. I know there have been mornings when you looked into the mirror and saw only someone trying to hold life together. I know there have been nights when regret replayed itself over and over until you wondered whether your best days had already passed. But listen carefully, my beloved. Regret is not your identity. Fear is not your identity. Self-doubt is not your identity. They are visitors that have lingered far too long, but they have never owned your heart. They have spoken often, but they have never possessed the authority to define who you are. You have believed that because you still struggle, you must somehow be failing. Yet I have never expected perfection before offering my presence. You have believed that because you still carry questions, your faith must be disappearing. Yet faith has often grown strongest in hearts that continue seeking me while they do not yet understand everything. You have believed that your tears revealed weakness, when many of those tears were simply evidence that your heart still refused to become hard. Do not condemn the tenderness that remains within you. It is not your greatest weakness. It is one of the ways you continue reflecting the compassion I placed inside you from the beginning. My beloved child, I know the lies have sounded convincing because they have been repeated for so long, but repetition has never transformed a lie into truth. The truth has always remained quietly waiting beneath the noise, patiently enduring every fearful thought that tried to cover it. And even while you struggled to recognize it, I never stopped recognizing you. I never stopped calling you by name. I never stopped seeing beyond your fear, beyond your doubts, beyond every false belief that tried to rewrite your story. The voice of fear may have spoken often, but my love has been speaking even longer, patiently waiting for the day when your heart would become still enough to hear once again that you have never been forgotten, you have never been beyond my reach, and you have never been anything less than deeply loved. My beloved child, now let me show you something that may surprise you. because the way you have been looking at yourself is not the way I have ever looked at you. You have spent so much time measuring your life through the lens of your disappointments that you have forgotten to ask how I see you. You have counted the prayers that seemed unanswered. I have counted every step of faith you took while you continued trusting, even when you could not yet see the outcome. You have focused on the moments when you stumbled. I have treasured every time you chose to rise again with a heart that still longed for goodness. You have looked at your scars and concluded that they prove how broken you are. I have looked at those same places and seen how much compassion has grown within you because of them. You believed your story became smaller after hardship entered your life. I have watched your heart become deeper, gentler, and more capable of loving others because of everything you have endured. There is so much about you that you cannot yet see because pain has narrowed your vision. Pain often convinces a person to notice only what has been lost while overlooking everything that has quietly grown beneath the surface. But my beloved, I do not see only the visible branches of your life. I also see the hidden roots that have been stretching deeper with every season you thought was wasted. There were days when you believed nothing was happening because everything around you appeared unchanged. Yet beneath the surface, I was strengthening your patience. I was shaping your character. I was teaching your heart to depend on something greater than circumstances. You thought you were standing still. I saw unseen growth taking place where no human eye could recognize it. Just as a seed remains hidden beneath the soil long before anyone celebrates the beauty of the tree, much of my work within you has been unfolding in places invisible to the world. Do not mistake hidden growth for forgotten purpose. The roots that no one applauds are the very roots that allow a tree to remain standing when strong winds arrive. In the same way, the quiet seasons that made you wonder whether your life had lost direction have often been the seasons that strengthened you the most. You have called yourself weak because you still felt afraid. I have called you courageous because you continued walking even while fear whispered beside you. You have called yourself unworthy because you remembered your failures. I have looked beyond every failure and remembered the person I created before fear ever spoke your name. You have questioned whether you possess enough strength to face tomorrow. I have already seen the strength that has been quietly growing inside you. Through every ordinary day, you faithfully continued taking one step after another. My child, hidden strength rarely feels powerful while it is being formed. It often feels like endurance. It feels like choosing kindness when disappointment would have been easier. It feels like offering forgiveness while your heart is still healing. It feels like continuing to pray after many silent nights. It feels like waking each morning and placing one foot in front of the other even when hope seems fragile. You have mistaken these ordinary acts for signs that you are merely surviving. I see them as evidence that my grace has never stopped working within you. Every quiet act of faith has mattered. Every gentle choice has mattered. Every moment you refuse to let bitterness become the ruler of your heart has mattered. The world often celebrates visible success, but heaven rejoices over transformed hearts. And I have watched your heart becoming more beautiful than you realize. Even the tenderness you sometimes wish you could hide is precious to me. You fear that your sensitivity makes you vulnerable. I see it as proof that your heart has not surrendered to hardness. You worry that your compassion causes you to hurt more deeply than others. I see a heart that still reflects my own desire to comfort, to restore, and to love. Never believe that your gentleness is a weakness. In my kingdom, gentleness carries a quiet strength that cannot be measured by the standards of this world. My beloved, when I look at you, I do not first see your fears, your doubts, your unfinished journey, or your unanswered questions. I see my beloved child who has continued seeking me through seasons that would have caused many to give up. I see someone who has carried hidden burdens without losing the ability to care for others. I see someone whose tears have watered the soil where deeper faith has been growing. I see someone who has not been abandoned for even a single moment, even when it felt that way. Most of all, I see the masterpiece I am still lovingly shaping. I have never rushed the work of my hands. I have never grown impatient with the process of restoring a heart I treasure. Every chapter of your life, including the ones you would rather forget, is being gently woven into something more beautiful than you can presently imagine. So do not judge yourself by what is unfinished. See yourself through my eyes. where hidden strength is already rising, unseen growth is already flourishing, and the story I am writing over your life is far more hopeful than the one fear has been trying to convince you to believe. My beloved child, I know there is one question that has quietly echoed through your heart more times than you could ever count. Why has it taken so long? Why does it seem as though everyone else is moving forward while you are still standing in the same place, still praying the same prayers, still carrying the same hopes into another sunrise? I have heard that question every time it formed within your spirit, even when you never spoke it aloud. I have never been offended by your wondering. I have never loved you less because you long to understand. I know that waiting can feel lonely, it can feel confusing, it can make even the strongest heart wonder whether anything is changing at all. But my beloved, there is a difference between waiting without purpose and waiting with preparation. You have never been waiting alone, and you have never been waiting without purpose. Long before the first green leaf appears above the ground, a seed is already alive beneath the soil. Hidden from every eye, it quietly receives what it needs. It stretches downward before it reaches upward. It develops roots before it displays beauty. If someone looked only at the surface, they might believe nothing was happening. They might conclude that the seed had been forgotten. But beneath the earth, life is unfolding exactly as it should. In many ways, your own heart has been living through a season much like that hidden seed. You have looked around and wondered why your circumstances appeared unchanged, while inside I was gently accomplishing work that could not yet be measured. Every season has its purpose. Spring awakens. Summer strengthens. Autumn releases. Winter teaches quiet trust. None of these seasons lasts forever, and none of them is meaningless. Yet the season that people often resist the most is the one where growth cannot easily be seen. You have mistaken that hidden season for delay. I have always seen it as preparation. Preparation is one of the greatest expressions of my love because I never rush a gift that your heart is not yet ready to carry. If I gave every blessing at the first moment you desired it, some of those blessings would become burdens. If every door opened immediately, you would sometimes walk through before your roots had grown deep enough to remain steady. I desire more for you than temporary excitement. I desire lasting peace. I desire wisdom that remains when emotions change. I desire faith that continues standing long after circumstances shift. Those treasures are often formed during seasons that feel slow but are filled with quiet purpose. Think about the roots of a great tree. No one gathers to celebrate them because they remain hidden beneath the ground. Yet when storms arrive, the strength of the roots becomes visible through the stability of the tree. The roots were never wasted simply because they were unseen. They were preparing the tree to stand where shallow roots never could. In the same way, every quiet prayer, every lesson learned through patience, every disappointment that taught you compassion instead of bitterness, has been extending spiritual roots deeper than you realize. You have asked why progress sometimes feels invisible. My beloved, invisible does not mean absent. Hidden does not mean forgotten. Slow does not mean that I have stopped working. There are seasons when the most important transformation happens, where no one can applaud it because it takes place inside the heart. That inner work becomes the foundation upon which everything else is built. I know you have sometimes compared your journey with the lives of others. You have wondered why their fields appear full, while yours still looks as though it is waiting for rain. But you do not know the preparation I have designed for them, and they do not know the preparation I have lovingly designed for you. I never write identical stories because I am forming unique hearts, unique callings, and unique testimonies. Comparison has often tempted you to believe you are behind, but in my eyes, you are exactly where your growth is unfolding. You have not missed my timing. You have not fallen outside my care. The process itself has been shaping you into someone who will not merely receive blessings, but will also know how to carry them with humility, gratitude, and compassion. One day you will look back upon this waiting season with different eyes. You will remember moments that once felt empty and realize they were quietly filled with my presence. You will remember prayers that seemed unanswered and discover they were being prepared through wisdom you could not yet see. You will remember the long nights when hope felt fragile and recognize that those very nights strengthened your roots until they reached living water that could never be taken away. My beloved child, Do not despise the season you are living in today. Even now, while your heart still longs for what is ahead, I am accomplishing something beautiful within you. Every day of waiting has been gently shaping your character. Every quiet season has been nurturing unseen growth. Every moment of trusting me without having every answer has become part of a deeper preparation that will one day make perfect sense. Until that day arrives, remember this gentle truth. A seed does not question whether spring will come. It simply remains where it has been planted, receiving what its creator faithfully provides. In the same way, remain close to me, for the one who planted hope within your heart has never forgotten the season he appointed for it to bloom. My beloved child, perhaps the question has quietly changed within your heart. It is no longer only, when will this season end? Now another question begins to rise. Who am I becoming while I am here? This is a beautiful question because it shifts your eyes away from what you have not yet received and gently turns them toward what has already begun to grow within you. There are changes taking place inside your soul that cannot be measured by calendars or circumstances. They are quieter than outward success, yet they are far more lasting. There was a time when uncertainty would have shaken you much more deeply than it does today. You may not even recognize the difference because growth often feels ordinary while it is happening. But look carefully. You have learned to pause before reacting. You have learned that not every unanswered question requires an immediate answer. You have discovered that peace is not found by controlling every outcome but by continuing forward one faithful step at a time. These are not small things. They are the marks of a heart becoming wiser. Wisdom rarely arrives all at once. It is formed through countless ordinary moments when you choose humility over pride, patience over frustration, understanding over quick judgment. Every experience has quietly become a teacher. Even the chapters you wished had never happened have offered lessons that comfort alone could never have taught. You now recognize pain in the eyes of others more quickly because you have carried it yourself. You listen with greater kindness because you know what it feels like to long for someone who truly hears. You extend grace more freely because you have learned how deeply every person is fighting battles that often remain unseen. This is the quiet beauty of transformation. Hardship did not simply leave marks upon your life. It expanded your capacity for compassion. There was also a time when every delay felt like a reason to give up. Now, even though questions still remain, something steadier has begun to grow beneath them. Resilience is taking root. Resilience is not pretending life is easy. It is continuing to move forward with quiet courage even when the path remains unclear. It is discovering that hope can remain alive without demanding immediate certainty. It is realizing that your strength does not come from never becoming weary, but from learning how to keep placing your heart into trustworthy hands day after day. This resilience is becoming part of who you are. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be hurried. It is formed through faithful endurance. Patience is also growing within you in ways you may not fully appreciate yet. The world often treats patience as passive waiting, but true patience is active trust. It is choosing not to rush ahead of the work being done within your own heart. It is allowing each day to shape you, instead of constantly resisting where you are. It is believing that meaningful transformation cannot be forced, just as fruit cannot be hurried before its season. Every sunrise has been quietly inviting you to become the kind of person who values lasting character more than temporary results. That invitation has not been wasted. There is another gift unfolding inside you as well. You are becoming more gentle with yourself. Not perfect, not finished, but gentler. Little by little, you are learning to release impossible expectations that once exhausted your spirit. You are beginning to understand that growth is not measured by never stumbling again. Growth is measured by how quickly your heart returns to truth after fear has spoken. Growth is measured by your willingness to begin again without allowing shame to become your identity. This quieter posture is creating room for deeper peace than constant striving ever could. As these qualities continue forming within you, they also begin touching the lives around you. The patience you are learning today will become someone else's encouragement tomorrow. The compassion growing inside your heart will become a refuge for another weary soul. The wisdom being shaped through your own journey will one day guide someone standing where you once stood. Nothing that is being built within you exists only for yourself. Every lesson carries the possibility of becoming light for another traveler. Every quiet victory over fear becomes a testimony that hope can survive even the longest seasons. Do not underestimate the person you are becoming simply because the process has felt slow. Lasting transformation almost always unfolds quietly. Mountains are shaped grain by grain. Rivers carve valleys one steady flow at a time. Great trees grow ring by ring, unseen beneath their bark. In the same way, your heart is being strengthened through countless moments that may appear ordinary but are carrying eternal significance. One day you will look back and realize that this season did not merely teach you how to wait. It taught you how to become. It cultivated wisdom where confusion once ruled. It nurtured resilience where fear once lingered. It deepened patience where hurry once lived. It expanded compassion where pain might have created hardness. And as these gifts continue taking root within you, you will discover that the greatest miracle of this journey was never simply reaching a destination. It was the quiet transformation of the person walking toward it, one faithful step at a time. My beloved child, after everything your heart has carried, after every quiet lesson that has slowly taken root within you, perhaps you are wondering what comes next. You do not need another impossible task. You do not need a heavier burden. You do not need to prove yourself through endless striving. What I am inviting you into is much gentler than that. I am inviting you to loosen your grip on the things that have quietly been stealing your peace. There are burdens you were never meant to carry beyond this moment. There are fears that have spoken for far too long. There are memories that continue asking for your attention, even though they no longer deserve authority over your future. You do not have to fight every battle by your own strength. You do not have to solve every mystery before taking the next faithful step. Today, I simply ask you to begin opening your hands instead of clenching them so tightly. Let go of the belief that you must control every outcome before you can rest. Let go of the pressure to understand everything before you choose to trust. Let go of the exhausting habit of carrying tomorrow before today has even ended. Every time you insist upon carrying what belongs beyond your reach, your heart becomes heavier than it was ever created to be. You were not designed to live beneath the weight of endless uncertainty. You were created to walk one step at a time, receiving fresh mercy with every new morning. There's also someone you may need to release from the prison of your own heart. Perhaps it is a person who wounded you. Perhaps it is someone who failed you when you needed them most. Perhaps, if you are honest, it is even yourself. Forgiveness does not pretend that pain never happened. It does not erase wisdom. It does not require you to call darkness light. Forgiveness simply refuses to allow yesterday's wounds to continue deciding tomorrow's peace. Every moment bitterness remains hidden within the heart, it quietly asks you to relive what I desire to gently heal. I know forgiveness can feel impossible when the memories still ache. That is why I am not asking you to manufacture strength you do not possess. I am inviting you to take one small step of willingness. Sometimes healing begins not with complete freedom but with a simple whisper that says, I am ready to begin letting go. That whisper is enough for me to continue my work within you. There is another invitation as well, and it reaches even deeper. Trust me with the parts of your life you have kept behind closed doors. Trust me with the questions that still remain unanswered. Trust me with the dreams that seem delayed. Trust me with the future you cannot yet see. Trust is not pretending that uncertainty has disappeared. Trust is choosing where your heart will rest while uncertainty still exists. Many people believe surrender means losing something precious. But true surrender is the moment you finally stop carrying what has been quietly exhausting your soul. It is not the loss of freedom. It is the beginning of it. It is placing your weary heart into hands that are steady when your own strength begins to fail. It is allowing peace to replace constant striving. It is choosing quiet confidence over endless worry. My beloved child, you do not need to become fearless before you take this step. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the quiet decision to continue walking even while your heart still trembles. Every act of trust begins as a small decision before it becomes a lasting way of life. Every surrendered burden creates room for deeper peace. Every forgiven wound creates space where compassion can grow. Every anxious thought that you release opens another place where hope may quietly settle. Do not underestimate the power of these small choices. Great rivers begin with tiny streams. Great forests begin with fragile seeds. Lasting transformation often begins with one humble decision made in the quietness of an ordinary day. So today, release what you cannot control. Forgive where your heart has become weary. Surrender what has become too heavy to carry alone. Trust, even if your next step feels smaller than you hoped it would be. Do not rush yourself. Do not condemn yourself for still learning. Growth remains a journey, not a race. Every sincere step toward peace matters. Every quiet moment of trust matters. Every decision to soften instead of becoming hard matters. As you continue walking this path, you will slowly discover that the chains you once believed defined your life have begun losing their weight. The fears that once filled every corner of your thoughts no longer speak with the same authority. The burdens that once seemed impossible to set down become lighter, not because life has suddenly become easy, but because your heart is no longer carrying them alone. This is the invitation before you now. Not to become someone else overnight, but to keep becoming the person your soul has quietly been growing into all along, with open hands, a willing heart, and the quiet confidence that every step taken in trust is leading you toward deeper peace. My beloved child, as you loosen your grip on what has been weighing down your heart, you may quietly begin asking another question. If I truly take this next step, what waits beyond it? You cannot yet see the road ahead, and perhaps that has made you hesitant. You have learned that life can change without warning, so part of your heart has become cautious whenever hope begins to rise again. But I want you to breathe deeply for a moment and allow yourself to consider a gentle possibility. The chapter ahead does not have to look exactly like the chapters behind you. The pages you have already lived are not the only pages that will ever be written. There is still room for new beginnings. There is still room for quiet restoration. There is still room for moments that your weary heart has not yet imagined. Do not confuse what has happened with all that can happen. Your future has not been imprisoned by your past. Every sunrise quietly reminds creation that endings are never the final language of my kingdom. Night gives way to morning. Winter gives way to spring. Fields that once appeared empty eventually become filled with life again. The same rhythm that unfolds throughout creation also unfolds within the soul. Seasons change, hearts heal, hope returns little by little, until one day you realize that the heaviness which once seemed permanent has become lighter than you ever believed possible. You do not need to know every detail of tomorrow in order to welcome it with peace. Some of the most beautiful gifts arrive quietly, without announcement, growing gently until they become impossible to ignore. A conversation that renews your courage. A friendship that reminds you that kindness still exists. A moment of unexpected clarity after months of confusion. A quiet opportunity that appears when you are no longer striving to force every door open. These moments often seem ordinary while they are happening, yet together they become the beginning of an entirely new chapter. My beloved, I am not asking you to build your hope upon specific outcomes or guaranteed timelines. I am inviting you to anchor your heart in something far more secure than predictions. Hope does not depend upon knowing exactly what tomorrow holds. Hope grows because you know that no matter what tomorrow brings, you will not walk into it empty-handed. The wisdom that has been cultivated within you will travel with you. The patience that has quietly matured inside your spirit will remain. The compassion that has grown through every difficult season will continue touching every life you encounter. Nothing that has been formed within you will be wasted. Everything meaningful travels forward with you. There are opportunities that cannot yet be recognized because they belong to a season that has not fully arrived. Just as a traveler cannot see beyond the next mountain until reaching its summit, there are blessings that remain hidden only because they belong to tomorrow instead of yesterday. This does not mean they are absent. It simply means they are unfolding according to a wisdom greater than hurried expectations. Continue walking faithfully, and the path will reveal what you need when you need it. Restoration often begins long before anyone notices it. It begins in the quiet decision to hope again, It begins when bitterness slowly releases its grip. It begins when peace starts replacing constant fear. It begins when your heart discovers that joy is not something you must chase, but something that gently grows where trust has taken root. You may one day look back upon this very season and realize that what seemed like an ending was quietly becoming the doorway into something far more beautiful than you had imagined. Breakthrough is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives as a calm heart where anxiety once lived. Sometimes it appears as quiet confidence after years of uncertainty. Sometimes it is found in the simple realization that you no longer carry yesterday's burdens with the same weight. These changes may seem small to the world, but they are precious because they reshape the way you live every ordinary day. My beloved child, leave room within your heart for holy surprise. Leave room for joy to find you again. Leave room for laughter that no longer feels forced. Leave room for relationships marked by honesty and kindness. Leave room for fresh purpose to awaken where discouragement once settled. Leave room for dreams that have been purified by patience instead of driven by fear. The future before you is not an invitation to anxious striving. It is an invitation to faithful expectancy. Walk forward without demanding that every answer arrive before the next step. Walk forward believing that every season carries its own gifts, even when they are not immediately visible. Walk forward remembering that the one who has patiently shaped your heart through every hidden season will continue leading you with quiet faithfulness into each new chapter. There is more life ahead than your fears have allowed you to imagine. There is more restoration than your disappointments have permitted you to believe. There is more opportunity for goodness, for healing, for meaningful purpose, and for lasting peace than your weary heart has yet been able to see. So keep your spirit open, keep your hands unclenched, and keep your eyes lifted with gentle expectation, because the story before you is still unfolding, and some of its most beautiful pages have not yet been turned. My beloved child, before this quiet moment comes to an end, I want you to carry something with you that no circumstance can easily take away. Do not carry the weight you arrived with. Do not carry the fear that whispered you would always remain the same. Do not carry the false belief that your story has already reached its most meaningful chapter. Instead, carry this quiet assurance within your heart. You have not been walking alone, even during the moments that felt the loneliest. You have not been forgotten, even during the seasons that seemed silent. You have not been abandoned, even when you struggled to recognize my gentle presence beside you. There is a peace that does not depend upon perfect circumstances. There is a hope that remains alive even when every answer has not yet arrived. There is a quiet strength that grows one faithful step at a time, and that strength has already begun taking root within you. Remember what your heart has discovered along this journey. Your waiting was never empty. Your tears were never meaningless. Your questions were never too much for me to receive. The hidden seasons were shaping deeper roots. The quiet days were cultivating wisdom. The slow moments were teaching patience. The difficult chapters were expanding compassion. None of these gifts appeared all at once, yet together they have been gently transforming the person you are becoming. Do not forget this when tomorrow brings ordinary responsibilities once again. When you wake to another morning, remember that peace is not something you must chase before the day begins. Receive it as a gift. When unexpected challenges appear, remember that resilience has already been quietly growing within you. When old fears attempt to return, remember that fear is no longer the loudest voice your heart has learned to hear. Let truth remain stronger than anxiety. Let hope remain steadier than uncertainty. Let quiet trust become more familiar than constant striving. There will still be moments when questions arise. There will still be days when your emotions feel heavier than you expected. There will still be times when you wish the road were clearer. Do not be discouraged by this. Growth has never required the complete absence of struggle. A healthy tree still stands through changing weather. A river continues flowing even when clouds gather overhead. In the same way, your heart can continue walking forward without needing every circumstance to become perfect first. Allow yourself to rest in that gentle freedom. You no longer need to measure every day by visible progress alone. Some of the most meaningful victories happen quietly within the soul. A calmer response where fear once ruled, a softer heart where bitterness once lingered, a patient spirit where frustration once hurried every step. These quiet victories matter more than you realize, because they reveal a life that is being steadily renewed from within. As you continue living beyond this moment, may your heart become a place where peace feels welcome. May wisdom continue guiding your choices with quiet confidence. May patience steady you when the road seems long. May compassion flow naturally through your words and your actions. May gratitude gently awaken your eyes to notice simple blessings that once passed unnoticed. May hope continue rising with every sunrise, reminding you that each new day carries fresh mercy and fresh opportunity to walk with courage. When you feel weak, remember that strength often grows in quiet places. When you feel uncertain, remember that the next faithful step is enough for today. When you feel weary, allow your soul to rest instead of demanding perfection from yourself. Let kindness become your daily rhythm. Let forgiveness remain an open door instead of a locked room. Let trust continue unfolding one decision at a time. And when your heart becomes still once more, remember this conversation. Not because these words themselves hold power, but because they have pointed you toward the one whose faithfulness never changes. Carry that faithfulness with you into your home, your work, your relationships, your quiet mornings, and your sleepless nights. Carry it into every ordinary moment, because ordinary moments are often where the deepest peace quietly grows. My beloved child, the road before you remains unwritten, but you do not need to fear what you cannot yet see. Walk gently, breathe deeply, receive each day as it comes. Let your heart remain open. Let hope remain alive. Let peace become your companion. And may this simple truth remain with you long after these words have become quiet. You do not have to rush your journey, because grace walks at your pace, hope waits beside your path, and every faithful step taken with a willing heart is already leading you toward the life that has been quietly growing within you all along. May your soul rest. May your gentle trust and an unshaken hope that never lets go